When the human supply ship Aurora Dawn drifted off course near the edges of the Salathian Nebula, its captain, Marcus Hale, expected nothing more than another rough mission. He was a quiet man, a technician and medic by training, not a soldier or hero. The ship's distress call had failed, and the crew scattered across escape pods when a magnetic storm tore through space. Marcus's pod crashed on a green, unknown world, half jungle and half silver desert. When he woke, his visor cracked. The air smelled faintly sweet but breathable. His body ached, yet his instincts told him he was alive. He checked the pod's sensors. No human signals, only unknown life forms. His comm was silent. He was alone. He gathered what he could. A medkit, a damaged communicator, a canister of purified water. The jungle around him buzzed with insect-like sounds, but the trees were smooth silver trunks, the leaves translucent like glass. He started walking toward a flicker of light he saw beyond the ridge. Hours passed. His boots sank into soft ground. His stomach grumbled. When the sky dimmed to violet, he noticed a shadow following him. A small figure, half his size. At first he thought it an animal, but then he heard a faint voice. "Please, help." He turned and saw a child. Pale skin with a faint glow beneath it, large lilac eyes, and hair like threads of moonlight. She was trembling, her leg bruised. She didn't look human, but her fear felt human enough. Marcus knelt, voice calm. "It's all right. I won't hurt you." The girl flinched at the sound of his voice, but didn't run. "You are human?" she asked carefully, her accent soft but strange. He nodded. "Yes, you're hurt." "Let me see." She hesitated, then slowly stepped closer. Her wound wasn't deep, but her skin was thinner, the bone structure delicate. He cleaned the cut with disinfectant, applied a patch, and smiled gently. "Better?" Her small hands touched his glove. "It does not hurt now." "Good." She watched him with wide eyes. "You speak kindly." "Like father." The words surprised him. "Your father?" She looked down. "He is gone. Skyfire took him." Marcus didn't understand at first, then realized she meant some kind of attack or disaster. "I'm sorry," he said softly. She tilted her head. "What is your name?" "Marcus," she smiled faintly. "I am Lyria." As night fell, strange floating lights rose from the jungle floor, glowing softly like lanterns. Marcus made a small campfire with survival gel, warming them both. The child sat near him, silent but curious. "Where do you live, Lyria?" She pointed north. "The High Palace. My mother rules there. She will be angry if she knows I wandered far." Marcus blinked. "Your mother's a queen?" She nodded as if it were obvious. "The queen of the Salathian Dominion." Marcus exhaled quietly. He had crashed on the homeworld of one of the most feared alien empires in this sector. Still, the girl's innocence eased his fear. He shared a protein bar with her. She tasted it, eyes widening. "Sweet, strange. I like it." "Glad you do," Marcus said with a faint smile. They slept lightly under the glowing trees. When morning came, the sound of engines echoed in the distance. Lyria's ears perked up. "Guards," she whispered. "They will find me." Soon, several tall armored figures landed nearby, their silver armor reflecting the rising sun. Their weapons hummed with energy. When they saw Marcus, they surrounded him instantly. "Human male." "Step back from the princess," one shouted. Marcus froze, hands raised. "She was injured." "I helped her." Lyria ran forward. "No, do not hurt him." "He saved me." The soldiers hesitated, uncertain. Then one touched his communicator. "Bring her to the queen at once and bring the human." Marcus's stomach tightened. The journey to the palace was swift. They rode in a sleek shuttle over endless fields of shining blue vegetation. Towers rose in the distance like crystal spears piercing the clouds. The palace was vast, carved from white stone and silver metal, its gates guarded by hundreds of warriors. When Marcus was led inside, he felt every gaze on him. No human had ever stood here before. The throne room was enormous. At its center sat the queen. Tall, graceful, her skin marked with faint silver lines that glowed with emotion, her eyes like amethyst fire. She was beautiful but commanding, a ruler who had faced wars and won them all. "Bring my daughter forward," she ordered. Her voice was deep, melodic, and powerful. Lyria ran to her, clutching her hand. "Mother, do not be angry. I went to see the firelights. Then I fell. The human found me. He helped me. The Queen's expression softened for a moment as she looked at her child's bandaged leg. Then her gaze turned cold as she looked at Marcus. "A human? From the outer colonies?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Marcus said quietly. "My ship crashed. I meant no harm." "Humans are trespassers in Salathian space," she said sharply. Marcus lowered his eyes. "I understand. I'll leave as soon as I can repair my pod." Before the Queen could respond, Lyraya tugged her hand. "But Mother, he is kind. He saved me. He called me brave." The Queen looked at her daughter again, then at the human standing silently before her. Something unreadable passed through her gaze. "You saved the heir of the Dominion," she said at last. "You will not be harmed." Marcus bowed slightly. "Thank you." The guards stepped back. The Queen gestured. "Take him to the guest wing. He will remain until I decide what to do." Lyraya smiled. "May I visit him?" The Queen hesitated, then nodded once. "Only under guard." That night, Marcus stood by a balcony overlooking the glowing gardens. He could hear soft music from below, like wind chimes carried by the breeze. Lyraya appeared again, escorted by a single guard who stayed at a distance. "You do not look happy," she said. He smiled faintly. "I just miss my crew. My home," she tilted her head. "You can stay here. Mother listens to me sometimes." He chuckled softly. "I doubt she'd keep a human around." Lyraya grinned. "Maybe she will." They spoke for hours about stars, about food, about simple things. For Marcus, the alien palace no longer felt so strange. Days turned to weeks. The Queen learned more about him. His work as a medic, his calm manner, his quiet patience. She began to tolerate his presence, even ask questions about Earth's healing methods. One day, while Marcus was treating a palace guard with a fractured arm, Lyraya ran in proudly holding a drawing she'd made, a crude sketch of herself, her mother, and Marcus. At the bottom she had written in shaky letters, "My family." The Queen paused at the doorway, seeing it. Her lips parted slightly, surprise flickering in her eyes. "Lyraya," she said slowly, "what is this?" The girl looked up, innocent and bright. "You and me, and Father," she pointed at Marcus. "He takes care of me." "He is like Father." Marcus froze. The guard's laughter died instantly. The whole room went silent. The Queen stepped forward, her gaze locking on the human. The air around her seemed to tremble with power. "Why?" she said softly, dangerously calm. "Does my daughter call you Father Human?" Marcus opened his mouth, words caught in his throat. He saw both fear and confusion in Lyraya's eyes, the honesty of a child who didn't understand politics or bloodlines, only kindness. He bowed his head. "Your Majesty, I never told her to call me that. I just cared for her when she needed help." The Queen's eyes searched his face, her expression unreadable. Lyraya reached for Marcus's hand without hesitation. "He makes me feel safe." Something in those words broke the tension in the room. The Queen turned away, her voice quiet. "Leave us." The guards obeyed instantly, stepping back until only the Queen, Marcus, and Lyraya remained. For a long time, no one spoke. The Queen's tone softened barely above a whisper. "You are human, yet you showed compassion to a child not your own. That is rare, even among my own kind." Marcus simply said, "She reminded me what it means to be alive." The Queen's gaze lingered on him longer than before. For the first time, her voice was not the voice of a ruler, but of a mother. "Perhaps there is more to your kind than war and ambition." Lyraya smiled brightly, unaware of the storm she had stirred between two worlds. And somewhere deep within the Queen's heart, a strange new feeling began to take root, a quiet wonder that this fragile human, lost among the stars, had somehow become part of her daughter's world. The days after that moment in the medical hall were quiet, yet filled with tension that Marcus could feel even through the silence of the palace walls. The Queen had not spoken to him since that day. He worked quietly with the healers, fixing their broken medical tools and helping the wounded soldiers who returned from border patrols. Still, he often felt her eyes on him, watchful, unreadable, as if she was trying to understand something she had never seen before. Lyraya, on the other hand, stayed close to him whenever she could. She would follow him through the gardens, holding a small tablet where she drew flowers, birds, and strange beasts that roamed the palace grounds. She laughed often, and her laughter made even the alien servants smile. Marcus sometimes wondered how a child could hold so much light in such a world of sharp edges and strict rules. One evening, while he was checking supplies in the infirmary, Lariah rushed in, breathless. "Mother wants you in the council chamber," she said. Marcus blinked. "Now?" She nodded, eyes wide. "She is meeting the generals. She said your name." He hesitated but followed her. When he entered the large silver-walled room, he saw the Queen standing beside a massive round table. Around her stood half a dozen tall officers with blue armor and long spears of light. They stopped talking as soon as Marcus entered. The Queen turned toward him slowly. "Human," she said in a calm voice. "You once served as a medic?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "You understand disease, infection, and healing?" "Yes." She gestured to the center of the room. A holographic map appeared, planets burning red, borderlines blinking. "A fever spreads in our outer colonies. It kills our young first. Our healers are powerless. You will come with me to the relief station." Marcus hesitated. "Me? I'm not—" "You saved my daughter," the Queen interrupted. "Now you will help save others." He nodded slowly. "Of course, Your Majesty." Within hours, the Queen's royal ship, sleek, black, and shaped like a blade, rose from the palace spire. Marcus stood near the window, watching the planet fall away beneath them. Lariah waved from the landing platform, her hair fluttering in the wind, her smile bright. Marcus lifted his hand in return until the world disappeared into the stars. The journey took 2 days. The Queen rarely spoke, lost in her thoughts. Marcus noticed she rarely slept either. Once he found her in the observation hall staring at the stars. "You don't trust easily, do you?" he asked quietly. Her head turned slightly, eyes reflecting starlight. "Trust is a luxury I cannot afford, human," he nodded. "Sometimes it's all we have left." For a moment her gaze softened, then she turned away. "You speak too simply for a species that builds weapons faster than it builds peace." Marcus smiled faintly. "Sometimes the simple ones just try to keep people alive while others fight." There was no answer, only silence and the hum of the engines. When they reached the colony, the sight was grim. The once green world was now covered in dust storms and dying vegetation. Hospitals overflowed, children lay weak and fevered, their luminous eyes dimming. The Queen walked through the wards, her face carved from stone, but Marcus saw her hand tremble once when a small child reached for her robe. He began his work immediately. The air was heavy with sickness. The Salathian healers watched as he tested fluids, mixed compounds, and used his small human med scanner. The Queen stood beside him, silent but attentive. He spoke softly to every patient, treated them with patience and warmth. Days blurred together. The fever was like a living thing, fast, clever, unpredictable. But Marcus didn't give up. He slept only in short bursts, his hands steady even when exhaustion made his vision blur. The Queen saw his quiet persistence, the way he smiled at each patient, how even the dying children seemed calmer around him. One night, she found him asleep in a chair beside a young girl's bed, his coat draped over her instead of himself. The sight made something in her chest ache. By the 7th day, Marcus found a link, a parasite living in the colony's water filters, invisible to Salathian scanners but visible to human ones. He burned it out using high-frequency heat pulses and added a stabilizing compound to their medicine. The fever began to fade. The children opened their eyes again, whispering thanks in their soft alien tongues. The Queen stood beside him as the first recovered child laughed again. "You did this," she said quietly. "We did it," Marcus replied. "You brought the ship. I just saw what others missed." Her eyes met his. "Humility is not a weakness, human, but it is rare among conquerors." "I'm no conqueror," he said softly. "Just someone trying to do right by those who need it." The Queen looked away, her expression unreadable. "My daughter, she saw something in you before I did." After the colony was declared safe, the Queen ordered a celebration. The people bowed as she walked among them, yet their cheers were for both her and the human who had saved their children. For the first time in her reign, the Queen saw her people cheer a foreigner, and she did not stop them. That night, under the twin moons, she found Marcus again in the courtyard. He was looking up at the stars, his mind far away. "You wish to go home," she said. He nodded slowly. "Yes, but I don't know how. My beacon's too weak to reach Earth." She stood beside him, arms folded. "If I ordered it, my ships could take you there." He looked at her, surprised. Why would you do that? She didn't answer right away. Because my daughter would ask me to, and because I owe you a debt that cannot be measured in words. He smiled faintly. I didn't do it for reward. I know, she said quietly. That is what troubles me. They stood in silence for a while, the stars burning bright above them. Then the Queen spoke again, her voice softer. When I was young, I thought humans were all the same, hungry for power, careless with mercy. But you, she paused. You confuse me. Marcus chuckled gently. You're not the first to say that. The faintest hint of a smile touched her lips before she turned away. Get some rest, human. Tomorrow we return to the palace. The flight home was peaceful. When they landed, Lyria ran to Marcus, hugging him tightly. You came back. The stars told me you would. The Queen froze at the sight, her daughter's arms around a human, her laughter echoing through the grand hall. For a moment, the Queen's heart warred with her duty, but she did not stop the child. Later, as Marcus prepared his quarters, a messenger came. The Queen requests your presence. He entered the royal garden where she stood among silver flowers glowing under moonlight. You wanted to see me? She turned. Yes. My advisors wish to send you to the border world as ambassador. They believe you could calm the humans who trespass there. Marcus shook his head. I'm not a diplomat. Perhaps not, she said. But you have something they do not, honesty. He smiled softly. That's not always a weapon that wins wars. Her gaze softened. Maybe it wins something greater. A long silence stretched between them. The sound of the wind through the glowing trees filled the air. Finally, she said, My daughter still calls you father. Do you wish her to stop? Marcus's answer came slow, honest. She should call me what her heart believes. I'll never try to replace what she lost. The Queen studied him quietly. You speak as though you understand loss. He looked down. Everyone who travels the stars does. We all leave something behind. For the first time, the Queen's eyes showed sadness. Then perhaps we are not so different after all. When Marcus left the garden that night, he didn't see the Queen watching him go, her fingers brushing the small pendant her daughter had drawn. A crude figure of 3, one of them unmistakably human. In the following days, strange rumors spread among the palace servants that the Queen spoke less of war, that she smiled more often, and that the human had been seen, walking beside her through the gardens at sunset. But no one dared speak openly of what was forming a quiet bond between the ruler of an empire and the man her daughter called father. The palace had returned to its usual rhythm, yet something unspoken lingered in the air. Marcus had begun to feel more at ease, but he knew the Queen's gaze followed him at unexpected moments. Lyria, meanwhile, had grown bolder, walking beside him without fear, asking questions about stars, ships, and Earth. She was endlessly curious, and Marcus found himself laughing more than he had in months. One morning, a message arrived from the border colonies. A human expedition had approached the system, seeking permission to enter Salathian space. Their ship was damaged and running low on supplies. The Queen summoned Marcus to advise her. In the council chamber, generals and advisors clustered, speaking in urgent tones. The Queen turned to Marcus. They are human yet in distress. What should we do? Marcus studied the holographic map of the approaching ship. Its hull was battered, engines flickering. They need help, he said. If we deny them, they may crash. If we assist, we risk distrust among the outer colonies, but saving them first could build goodwill. The Queen looked at him, her sharp features softened by the thoughtfulness in his eyes. You would risk diplomacy for mercy? Mercy isn't a risk, he said simply. It's a choice, one that defines who we are. Her gaze held his for a long moment, then she nodded slowly. Prepare a ship. You will lead the mission. Lyria will accompany you. Marcus froze slightly. She cannot face danger like this, Your Majesty. She insists, the Queen said firmly. And perhaps she will teach you more than you teach her. A sense of dread mixed with excitement filled him as he helped prepare the shuttle. Lyria's small hands assisted eagerly, fastening straps, checking instruments, and asking endless questions. Marcus admired her determination. The flight to the outer colony was tense. The stars stretched in long streaks, engines humming while sensors scanned for debris and life signals. Lyria leaned beside him, her eyes bright and observant. Do you think humans are different from Salathians? She asked softly. Marcus thought for a moment. They can be. But every species has the same capacity for kindness and fear. She nodded as if understanding more than her words allowed. And you? I try to be kind, he said. Even when it is hard. The shuttle approached the damaged human ship. Smoke and sparks rose from its engines. Marcus felt a familiar pang, memories of his own ship's destruction returning. We need to stabilize them quickly, he said, checking his medkit and tools. The docking was rough, the ship trembling as it linked to the Salathian shuttle. Inside, injured humans struggled to move. Marcus and Lyria worked together, tending wounds, calming frightened crew members, and repairing life support. Lyria's small hands handed him instruments, repeating instructions quietly but clearly, showing an intelligence beyond her years. Hours passed. Marcus focused on healing, his mind sharp despite fatigue. Lyria never left his side, and slowly he realized how deeply he had grown to care for this small alien girl who called him father. When the last patient stabilized, the Queen's voice crackled through the communicator. You have done well, human. Your compassion honors this world. Marcus bowed slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what anyone would do. Perhaps, she said softly, though her tone suggested doubt. Return with them to the palace. I wish to see the humans yourself rescued. Back at the palace, the rescued humans were tended carefully. They marveled at the palace, at the Queen's order, and at the fact that a human had led the operation. Marcus explained quietly to them the hierarchy, the customs, and the unspoken rules. Lyria followed, whispering translations and offering smiles that eased tension. The Queen observed quietly from her balcony. Something in her expression shifted, a faint warmth, though she tried to hide it. Marcus noticed only in passing, too busy checking on a human crew member who had fainted. That evening, as Marcus walked with Lyria through the glowing gardens, the child suddenly stopped. Father, she whispered, tugging his hand. Why do you help everyone so much? He looked down at her, his face gentle. Because everyone deserves hope, Lyria, no matter who they are or where they come from. She nodded thoughtfully, and for a moment they walked in silence, their shadows stretching under the soft light of the twin moons. Suddenly alarms echoed through the palace. Red lights flashed. Marcus's heart raced. Lyria grabbed his arm. What is it? The palace shields, he said, running toward the command hall. Someone is trying to breach them. The Queen appeared, calm yet commanding. Prepare defenses. Human, you will coordinate. Marcus nodded, moving quickly to the shield controls. Lyria followed at a safe distance, her eyes wide but steady. The attackers were fast, small ships darting like shadows, weapons charged. Marcus analyzed their patterns, issuing instructions to the Salathian fleet. Lyria, stay behind me, he instructed. No, I want to help, she said, determination blazing in her eyes. He sighed, recognizing the fire in her that mirrored his own courage. Then stay close but follow my orders. The battle raged outside, flashing across the sky. The human and Salathian ships moved in precise coordination under Marcus's direction. Despite his lack of military training, his quick thinking and ability to anticipate enemy moves gave them the advantage. Lyria handed him datapads and relayed sensor readings, her small hands moving with surprising precision. Finally, the attackers retreated, their ships scattering into the darkness. The palace shields held firm. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of engines and the distant voices of exhausted crews. The Queen approached, her expression unreadable, yet there was something in her eyes that Marcus had never seen. Approval, respect, and perhaps a spark of admiration. You have done more than heal and teach, she said softly. You have protected my world and my people. Marcus shook his head. I did only what was necessary. Lyria hugged him tightly. You are my hero, she whispered. The Queen's eyes softened as she watched her daughter. She calls you father, she said quietly, yet you risk yourself for others. I do not deserve that title, Marcus said gently. You deserve more than titles, she said, her voice barely audible. Over the following days, the palace returned to calm. The Queen studied Marcus quietly, sometimes asking questions about human technology, sometimes watching him interact with Lyria. She had noticed how naturally he cared for her daughter, how quickly he adapted to their ways without losing his own sense of self. One afternoon, Lyria ran to Marcus, carrying a small, intricate model of a human ship she had made from palace materials. "I made this for you," she said proudly. "So you remember your home?" Marcus took it carefully, smiling. "It's amazing, Lyria. You have talent," she beamed. "I will build more. Maybe for everyone in the palace." The queen observed from a distance, and for the first time she allowed herself a small, private smile. She realized that the human had changed more than the colony or the fleet. He had changed her daughter's world, and perhaps even her own. That night, as Marcus prepared to sleep, the queen appeared at the doorway of his quarters. "Human," she said softly, "you have earned my trust, though I do not say it lightly. I wish to know more of your world and of you." Marcus looked up, surprised. I would be honored, Your Majesty." She studied him for a long moment, her eyes reflecting the starlight through the window. "And Lyria," she said, her voice quiet. "She calls you father. You must understand what that means for our future." "I understand," Marcus said simply. "I will do my best to honor it." The queen nodded once, turning back toward the balcony. Marcus felt a weight lift. A bond had begun, fragile yet real, connecting human and alien, father and daughter, ruler and guest. Outside, Lyria slept peacefully, unaware of the complex threads she had tied between worlds with a single word. Marcus watched her for a moment, then allowed himself to rest, knowing the journey was far from over, but that for the first time, he was not alone. The stars shimmered beyond the palace walls, and for Marcus they were no longer just distant points of light. They were a promise of hope, of home, and of a family he had never expected to find. The following weeks passed with a rhythm of quiet work, laughter, and learning. Marcus had become a familiar presence in the palace, moving among the Salathian people with careful respect. Lyria followed him like a shadow, eager to help and to share her discoveries. Yet Marcus knew that the final test of trust and understanding would come soon. One morning, the palace alarms rang, but this time the threat was different. A massive fleet of alien raiders had approached the system, their ships bristling with weapons and intent on destruction. The queen called an emergency council. Marcus was summoned immediately. "They are stronger than anything we have faced," one general said, voice trembling.
"Even our shield arrays may not hold." The queen's eyes were calm, fixed on Marcus.
"You will lead the defense strategy." He swallowed, feeling the weight of the task. He was not a soldier, yet he had learned quickly how to think like one, to anticipate movements and to care for those under his command. "We will need every ship, every pilot," he said, "and precise coordination. I will guide them, but it will take the cooperation of all ranks." The queen nodded. "You have it. And Lyria will stay in the observation deck with me. She will not participate in combat." Marcus looked at the girl. "Are you sure, Lyria?" She smiled faintly. "I want to see. I want to learn. And I want to know that you are safe, Father." The words struck him. He realized that this child had come to depend on him in ways that went far beyond simple survival. He nodded and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Stay safe. I promise I will do everything I can to protect this world, and you." The battle began as the raiders entered the system. Marcus directed the Salathian fleet with steady precision. Ships maneuvered in coordinated patterns, shields flaring as energy weapons collided. Marcus worked tirelessly, anticipating enemy movements, suggesting formations and issuing instructions that saved countless lives. In the observation deck, Lyria watched in awe. The queen stood beside her, silent at first, then spoke softly. "You see, child, your father is not like the others we fear. He does not lead with strength alone, but with thought and care." Lyria nodded, eyes wide. "He is brave, mother. And kind." The queen's gaze lingered on Marcus through the glass. She had seen many warriors, many heroes, yet none had touched her as he had. Not through power, but through compassion and intelligence. Hours passed. The battle was brutal. Ships were damaged and destroyed, lives lost, yet Marcus's strategies held the line. Finally, the raider fleet faltered, retreating into the darkness of space. The Salathian ships had prevailed, and the system was safe once more. When Marcus returned to the palace, exhausted but unharmed, the queen met him at the entrance of the great hall. Her expression was inscrutable, but Marcus could see the faintest trace of respect, and something softer, something almost human in its tenderness. "You have done more than I expected," she said quietly. You have saved my people and shown my daughter the meaning of courage beyond force. Marcus shook his head. I only did what anyone would if they could. The Queen smiled faintly, a gesture rare and almost private. Perhaps, but your deeds will be remembered, human, and so will you. Lyraya ran up to him, throwing her arms around his waist. You were amazing, Father. You saved everyone! Marcus laughed softly, hugging her back. We saved them together. The Queen watched, and for a long moment she was silent. Then she spoke, her voice low, measured. Lyraya has given you a title, one I cannot take lightly. You have become part of this family. Do you accept it? Marcus looked at Lyraya, at her trusting eyes, and felt something deep in his chest shift. He thought of the battles, the healing, the laughter, and the quiet moments beneath the twin moons. I accept, he said finally. The Queen inclined her head. Then so it is. From this day forward, you are recognized not only as a guest of the Dominion, but as a protector of my daughter, and a part of our family. Lyraya cheered softly, hugging him again. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes, not from sorrow, but from a deep, fulfilling sense of belonging. He had never imagined that a human could hold such a place in an alien world, yet here he was. In the following weeks, Marcus continued to work alongside the Salathian healers, teaching them new methods, learning from them as well, and caring for Lyraya. The Queen observed quietly, sometimes asking questions, sometimes simply watching. She had begun to see Marcus not only as an ally or protector, but as something rare, a human who could bridge worlds, one act of kindness at a time. One evening, as the sky blazed with the colors of a distant nebula, Marcus stood with Lyraya on the palace balcony. Father, she said, leaning against him, do you think humans and Salathians can be friends? He looked at her, then at the stars. I do, we have to try. The universe is too big to be divided by fear. She nodded solemnly, then smiled. Then we will try together. Marcus smiled down at her. Yes, together. The Queen joined them silently, placing a hand on Lyraya's shoulder. For the first time, the three of them stood together, the human, the alien child, and her mother. A family bound not by species or blood, but by trust, courage, and care. In the following months, Marcus worked with Salathian engineers to repair his ship, preparing for the eventual return to Earth. Yet he found he no longer wished to leave immediately. He had responsibilities here, not only to the Queen and her daughter, but to the people who had come to rely on him. The Queen, too, had softened. She asked his opinion, sought his advice, and even shared quiet moments in the garden when Lyraya was asleep. She had realized that this human, so simple in speech yet profound in action, had changed her perception of what was possible: mercy, courage, and love that transcended worlds. One day, Lyraya ran to Marcus, a small device in her hand. Look, Father, I made a star chart of our adventures. Every planet, every life we helped. Marcus knelt to examine it, smiling. You've been paying attention, haven't you? She grinned. Every day, so we never forget. He hugged her, feeling the warmth of family, of trust, of a bond that spanned galaxies. The Queen watched them quietly from the doorway, her eyes soft but powerful. She had been a ruler all her life, yet she understood now that sometimes the greatest strength lay not in armies or weapons, but in human hearts. Finally, the day came when Marcus's ship was repaired. The engines hummed, gleaming in the sunlight. He looked at the Queen and Lyraya, knowing that leaving would be harder than anything he had faced. You have a choice, the Queen said softly. Return to Earth or stay. The decision is yours. Marcus looked at Lyraya, her eyes bright and hopeful. I want to stay, he said quietly. The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Then you shall stay, and so shall your family. Lyraya jumped up and down, cheering. Marcus laughed, picking her up. She wrapped her arms around his neck. You are truly my father, she said simply. The Queen stepped closer, her gaze gentle but firm. And you will always be protected here. This is your home now as much as it is hers. Your deeds have earned not just respect but belonging. Marcus bowed his head slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will honor it always. As the twin moons rose, casting silver light across the palace, Marcus looked at the stars and then at the two most important beings in his life. Lyraya, full of wonder and courage, and the Queen, strong yet capable of warmth he had never imagined. He realized that he had found more than survival in this strange alien world. He had found purpose, family, and a place where his heart could truly belong. In that quiet moment, the universe seemed less cold and vast. There was hope, connection, and trust. A human had crossed the stars and become part of an empire, not through conquest or power, but through the simple acts of caring, teaching, and loving. And for the first time in his life, Marcus felt that he had truly found a home among the stars.